show, but we're doing it on Tuesday so we can spend some time with our families on Thanksgiving. Not only do we have one guest, we've got two with us tonight. First off, we've got my co-host, as always, my Robin to my Batman, Mr. Dan Turner. What's going on, Dan? You doing all right this evening?
That joke doesn't work because I said it last week. Both can't be each other's Robins to each other's Batman.
Well,
so you have to be Robin. That's
I'm
how it
Batman,
works.
so
No, you're not Batman.
I have to make sure you know that you're Robin.
No one thinks you're Batman. I'm doing fine.
Well,
thank you.
That's how it works. Good. Glad to hear that you're as ornery as ever. With us is the boss man of this lovely site that we are a part of, Mr. Geoff Lambert himself. Appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's been a lot of fun.
And from Charity Pros versus Joes, we've got Eric.
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me. Looking forward to mixing it up tonight.
Yeah, so tonight's going to be a little bit different of a show. For those of you who have tuned in before, we normally go through my 10 Things article, pick a couple of the subjects, go over them, Dan's rookies. But tonight we're going to change it up. We're going to talk about players that we're thankful for, players that we're not thankful for, as well as going over just, something in general with the fantasy football world that we're thankful for as well. As always, please ask your questions. We're here for you. Since it's Tuesday, we can answer waiver questions, week 12, playoff questions, whatever you want. So with that being said, we do want to promote, we've got two charities going on. I'll let you guys take over and discuss them. Geoff, we'll start with you.
All right, yeah. So we got the Fight Against Addiction charity going on. It's a DFS contest that we're running. For those that follow my show know that around this time last year, I lost my brother-in-law, my wife's older brother, lost his lifelong battle with heroin addiction. After being clean for 14 years, he relapsed and unfortunately died of an overdose in November. So we're running a charity. Basically, the money is going to the rehab facility that actually got him clean the first time around. They've actually turned it now to a complete foundation. So we're running the contest. It's a free contest on DraftKings. You can sign up at goingfor2.com/fight. You can register there. The link is now live to join the contest. You can donate. It's not mandated that you donate. It's just optional. There's a GoFundMe page link in the article as well. If you go to goingfor2.com/fight, you can donate. We had set our goal originally at $500. We beat that goal in about 2 weeks after having it live. So I raised the goal to $850, and we just went over $850 tonight, and now we're actually over $900. I think we're at, $910, I think, right before we got on the show. We had a few donations coming late. So we got a few more days until Thanksgiving. It's going to be played on the Thanksgiving slate for the 3-game slate, hopefully 3-game slate. I mean, that Steelers game is kind of iffy right now with the Ravens. So hopefully it's 3 games from Thanksgiving.
Might be a 2-game slate.
It might be a 2-game slate. We'll see how that goes. But live, we've got, like I said, great people in there. We've got some good DFS players in there that will be in there playing as well. We're giving away a trophy winner. We'll get it ordered and everything else once we have the winner. But again, goingfor2.com/fight. You can sign up and donate there as well.
Yeah, so that will be that's awesome that we're really close to doubling the original goal. It'd be cool if you guys are watching. Let's see if we can do it by the end of the show. It would be a long shot, but you never know. So and Eric, everybody, I'm involved with Pros with Joe's, my team. Let's not talk about how terrible my team is, but it's been fun at least. We got a lot of big names in there. Why don't you go over what's going on with Pros versus Joe's?
Yeah. Pros with Joe's for charity is how I got tangled up with this J guy. Now I can't seem to shake him loose. But we got a whole mess of fantasy experts, industry pros that.
Did we lose you?
We may have just lost him. Yep, I think we lost him. Well, Jay, since you're in it, why don't you kind of give a little bit about it?
Yeah, so basically they got people from the fantasy industry all around. They got some big names, Joe Pisapia. I know a bunch of people from the Yahoo. I'm in there. Geoff, did you get in? I know Ryan did.
Ryan did. I did not.
Here we go.
Ryan. Are you back?
We back with you?
Check 1 2.
Maybe not. Well, they're and each person who is involved, who's an expert or whatever you would like to call it, has picked a charity that they're involved with, and people donated, was able to put in for a raffle or whatever, if you will, to play with these guys. And they, you there?
We're live. Can you?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Mic check.
And now we can't.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's I don't think we got you. Well, we'll keep going from there. We'll see if we can get Eric back here shortly. Long story short, you were able to donate for a chance to play with a pro, and if you won, you co-own a team with them. They're still running a charity. There's a bunch of prizes available for it. Things like getting one-on-one coaching with a playoff coaching with one of the experts and things of that nature. So there's a lot. Look on the pros with Joe's. I keep saying pros versus Joe's. The Pros with Joe's Twitter page, and they've got a link up there. You're still able to, I think it's through the end of the week, donate for a chance to win one. And there's a huge list of prizes. So nice. Check that out. And we'll hopefully get Eric back soon. Yeah, our guy Gary, Pros with Joe's, has left the chat. You're right about that. Hopefully we'll get Eric back on here soon. We will go ahead and hop into our players that we're thankful for. And Geoff, since it's your first time on the show with us, we'll let you go ahead first. And who's the player that you are thankful for this year in fantasy?
All right, so this guy, so I play Dynasty, and this is my main Dynasty league that I'm thankful for this guy in. This league has been going on since '98, so was that 22 years? We went Dynasty about 6 years ago. So in the off season,
wow.
You know, like improve your team. You're trying to upgrade here and there. Maybe get rid of some of your older guys. So I'm looking at my roster, and I have a receiver that's 28 who just lost his quarterback, went to a different team. In comes a new conservative quarterback, sort of a journeyman that's going to fill in. And then they draft a rookie. So I'm like, look at this guy. Okay, and not only that, he's in a contract year, so he can't be with his team anymore. I'm looking at him like, man, I really should probably try to move this guy. The conservative offense is there, and yada, yada, yada. Well, it turns out I finally just kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to hold on to him for one more year. I'll try to sell him maybe next year. So I think it's week 2. That starting conservative quarterback, of course, was Tyrod Taylor. It gets his lung punctured by a needle. In comes Justin Herbert, and Keenan Allen goes from being almost like a wide receiver 3 for me to being the third receiver in fantasy right now. I mean, he is beasting. I thought he would be sort of slowing down a little bit with Tyrod Taylor back there, which we saw in the first week. He probably was kind of slowing down a little bit, but Justin Herbert is coming in, revived everything. Keenan Allen has been a target monster. He's been great for DFS too. He's great for my fantasy team. He's the one receiver that I haven't taken out of my lineup all year for either injury or for just for bad performances. So yeah, I am thankful for Mr. Keenan Allen and thankful that I didn't trade him away.
Yeah, there was a lot who were down on him, and I've never been. I wouldn't say down on him, but I've never been aboard the Keenan Allen hype train. And man, he's been just a monster this year, especially with Herbert. Like we've said before, whoever Herbert paid to get that done to puncture Tyrod's lung, it was worth every penny. Because that dude is just lighting it up.
Do you ever see that meme? It was like live look at Tyrod Taylor's doctor, and it's like Justin Herbert's mom with a needle. It's like
that's fantastic. All I gotta say, man, I'm worried. I was worried with the terrible haircut that Justin Herbert got, that he might have lost some of his superpowers. But like Samson, but he still looked good. Granted, it was against the Jets. But Dan, we'll go to you next. Who are you thankful for in fantasy this year?
I mean, firstly, if anyone wants to talk about bad haircuts, it's you. But I think that my guy is going to be Josh Allen. Everyone came into this year thinking that he was going to.
What'd you say? Sorry, Dan, I can't hear you now.
And
I cut you off.
Son of a. Anyway, he's a number 4 quarterback right now. He has 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, got 5 rushing touchdowns, even threw a receiving touchdown this past week. So really, he's improved his game in all facets. The addition of Stephon Diggs has really, made him take that next step. And he's pretty much been the thing holding my fantasy team from complete oblivion this year, and he's really helped me out in the Guillotine League when I was able to pick him up the past couple of weeks. Yep. So Josh Allen is definitely my guy that I'm thankful for.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, he's been carrying my team in SFBX. I'm lucky. I got the Diggs and Josh Allen stack, and they've got me currently ranked at, I think I'm like 46 overall. It's been thanks to Josh Allen, because unfortunately I had Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. in a couple rounds. I think like the 5th round, and that was pretty terrible. Yeah, thankfully, the other guys stepped it up. But for me,
real quick, shout out to Taysom Hill for absolutely crushing Alex Smith in FBX scoring this past week. Wouldn't be my bet. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Cooter, if you're watching, or if you're gonna watch the replay, Dan's gloating on you here. So. Yeah, and Yeti, you're right, man. You could go for Kyler on here as well. For me, I'm going to go with A.J. Brown, and he's a part of my home team that's been decimated by injury. He's been my lone bright spot. Everybody was saying that he was the hot streak that he was on at the end of the year was unsustainable. But when he's been on the field, he's been a beast. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 over 20 points. He's only had games that he's played that he's been under double digits. He's single-handedly killed Jonnu Smith's value. When A.J. Brown's on the field, Jonnu Smith is a touchdown-dependent tight end, and that's pretty much it. Everybody was concerned that this offense was going to run through Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry's been just fine. But A.J. Brown showing that I think he's going to be, for years to come, a wide receiver 1 and somebody that dynasty his value's still going up. Nobody bought into Ryan Tannehill, but he's put up comparable stats to Mahomes over the past year, which is just
insane.
It goes to show you what kind of coach Adam Gase is when all these guys keep going off when they finally get out of his grasp, if you will. So I mean, Kalyn Bellage is fantasy relevant. Exactly. Past couple of weeks. So for me, as terrible as my home league team is, he's been my lone bright spot. And I'm going to double up and go with Stephon Diggs too. Like I was saying in FSBX, he's been a huge help. Diggs is wide receiver 5 on points per game on the year. I think he's shown that he's an alpha dog as well. And could you imagine if they had Diggs, Jefferson, and Thielen in Minnesota? Even Kirk Cousins couldn't screw that up.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah, the crazy thing.
Granted, it's Kirk Cousins, so. He probably still could. So, but.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like that. People were hating on Diggs. They were saying, "Oh, he's going to go to this run-heavy offense, and it's not going to be as good." And I'm like, dude, you know that the Vikings were a run-heavy offense, and he was fine. Like, why?
Yeah.
But he's been awesome. I mean, he's been awesome. No way around that.
All right, hold on. I think we actually just in time. Hey, brother, can you hear us?
I think he's still trying to.
We got you back here.
We got to change the venue, it looks like.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get him back in here.
Can you hear us?
We got from Yeti.
Nope.
Oh, all right. We'll see if we can get him back in. While we're doing that, we will roll on to players that we are not thankful for. And Dan, we'll start with you on this one. Who's somebody that you are not thankful for?
Well, I was doing a lot of complaining about this guy at the beginning of the year, and it holds true now. It's Gus Edwards. Because, at last year, Mark Ingram had a huge year, and no one really expected him to fall off the cliff like he has this year. And then they draft J.K. Dobbins. And you're like, okay, the worst it's going to be a 50-50 split on a run-heavy offense. You don't spend that kind of draft capital on Dobbins if you're not going to use him. And then all of a sudden, this random, know-nothing practice squad waiver wire guy comes in and ruins everything for everybody. Mark Ingram falls off the cliff, and JK still can't get any yardage. And I used my rookie picks on JK, so that made me pretty upset. So it's Gus Edwards for me.
Hey, Eric, we're going to try again. Can you hear us?
He's muted.
Yeah, I think you might be muted. We can hear you. You can hear us, but we can't hear you.
What's going on, Courtney? Appreciate you having me on this past weekend. If you guys haven't listened, Courtney's got a podcast called The Real Dude, Courtney Harden. Check him out on Twitter. He's a great guy.
I've listened to some of that. He actually is really good. It's a really good podcast.
He's awesome.
His was one of the very.
It was a lot of fun
that I ever went on. Actually, it wasn't even a podcast back then. It was an actual radio station, and I went on his show. It was one of the first ones I ever went on. I went on to do a fantasy preview, and I've been with Courtney and we do a lot of things together, man. He's a good guy. Eric, can you hear us?
We can't hear you, brother.
We cannot hear you.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, Geoff, we'll roll on to you. See if we can. We'll leave Eric on the stream. See if you can figure it out. Who is a player that you are not thankful for this year?
Well, okay. So, in this business, we make a lot of calls, especially in the off season. We're piping up different guys, and this guy break out, and this guy, and you're planting your flag on multiple guys. Once the season starts, people tend to forget about who you planted your flag on, but I didn't let them forget. I kept reminding them every single week, like, I'm planting my flag on this guy. I'm planting my flag on this guy. I wrote him up in every article, every DFS article. But N'Keal Harry, you man, you ruined a lot of my credibility because I was buying into you. I was buying into the Cam Newton, like the big body receivers. He's a Kelvin Benjamin type. He's in the same mold as Kelvin Benjamin, but a lot more athletic and fast. He can't seem to run routes. He seems to play soft. He doesn't adjust well to the ball. It killed me because I was all over N'Keal Harry. I bought him in a lot of dynasty leagues. I drafted him into my late sleepers, and he has straight killed me. So N'Keal Harry is a player I am not thankful for this week or this year.
Yeah, I had him in a couple places last year too, and I was excited to see Cam come to New England and see if he could revive his career, because you know how Brady is with the young wide receivers, and they obviously weren't connecting last year, and then he got hurt too. So I'm with you on that one. Guy Dan is probably gonna be very happy that I'm saying I am not thankful for. He's still the love of my life, Preston Williams, this year. I was all in. Yeah, Dan, I'm gonna mute Dan real quick. Right, hold on. There we go. Let's mute Dan real quick so we don't have to listen to that. Everybody knows, if you follow me on Twitter, that I am a big Preston Williams fan, and I still believe in the talent. I think I just underestimated how long it was going to take for him to come back from the ACL injury. Last year he was breaking out before he got hurt, and Vontae Parker didn't break out until Preston Williams went down. So I was thinking, with that being said, with Ryan Fitzpatrick back slinging the ball, I was thinking he had enough time to heal. He was going to come back, and it didn't happen. He did, he started off the season with 7 targets. He had a week 5, he had 20 points. He was first game over 100 yards and a touchdown. I was ready for, it looked like it was going to happen. They switched to Tua, and he gets hurt. So it's again. So I still believe in the talent of Preston Williams. I think it might be next year, especially because Tua has not looked that great fantasy-wise. Dan, you can be quiet now. I didn't rudely interrupt you. I can mute you since I'm hosting tonight. So, but that being said, I am not thankful for the way things have worked out so far with Preston Williams. I still believe in the talent. It's just going to be next year, and hopefully I don't have to say that again next year. So we've got a question from Sean on YouTube. Just got a trade offer from the first place team in a 10-team standard league. I'm 6-5 in the clump of a playoff spot. He wants Chris Carson, and he sends CEH, Geo, and Duke Johnson. So Chris Carson for CEH, Geo, and Duke Johnson. However, I start Gibson and James Robinson at running back, so this is for flex. So it's basically CEH for Chris Carson.
So he giving up Carson, or
he would be giving up Carson for CEH, Geo, and Duke Johnson, and it basically would be Chris Carson for CEH because it's a flex spot. So Geo and Duke would basically be depth pieces, and he would be starting CEH over Chris Carson. Hey, Eric, are you there? Do we figure it out?
Are we gonna go for third time's the charm here?
There we go. Third
Loud
time
and clear.
All right.
I'll dive right in by answering too, and unless Sean is the David Johnson or the Mixon owner, I'm probably sticking with the Carson side on this. Geo and Duke are nice depth pieces, but they're turning back into a pumpkin in a couple of weeks here, and rest of season outlook. I'll take the Carson side over CEH. I think Lev Bell's going to continue to creep in a little bit more into that workload week in and week out, whereas Carson looks to have that run all to himself in Seattle.
I'm gonna take the opposite side.
Oh,
I'm gonna go
jump
in there, but I'm taking the opposite side, and the reason why is because the Seahawks are a really good team, and Carson is off injured, and they are going to probably limit him a little bit, especially after they saw with Carlos Hyde this past week. He did pretty well in sort of filling in for Carson. So Carson may come back. They may limit him until the playoffs, and he may not get the workload that he was getting previous to this. So that makes me nervous a little bit. Now on the other side of things, you got CEH, who's a rookie, obviously. But it's the Chiefs. They like scoring a lot of points. I know CEH, had a good game this past week. He's been sort of up and down, and Lev Bell still kind of looming there in the background. But I do think the offense for the Chiefs kind of leans me towards CEH. I do think he'll be in more opportunities to score because Russell Wilson, when he gets in the red zone, he throws it. I mean, if you look at Metcalf and Lockett, they've led the league last few years in end zone targets. So they're not running the ball down there usually a lot. They're usually throwing the ball, and Wilson's a quarterback that can do that. So I think I'll see the CEH side of things. Then you get Duke Johnson and Geo. When Mixon's coming back, Geo could be the running back the rest of the season for all we know. And same thing with David Johnson. I mean, he may or may not be back at full strength. Johnson has that job right now.
Dan, what you think?
He's muted.
Dan, you're muted.
Hello?
There we go.
There you go.
What you think?
I'm going to take CEH. I'm going to agree with Geoff. I think that Carson might be better, but like that running situation in Seattle is just all over the place with all the running backs they have there. And who's to say that he doesn't get injured again? I think CEH has been healthy. I mean, Lev Bell is there, but as we saw last week, that doesn't mean the CEH can't have a good week with Bell there. I think everyone's saying this to sell CEH was a little bit oversighted. The offense he's in, they get up to really big leads and then they run the ball. So I think in this respect, even in Geo, if Mixon doesn't come back, that's still a good depth piece because you don't know. I mean, you want Gibson and Robinson to stay healthy, but this year, who knows? So even just getting those depth pieces with those other running backs, I think you lean that way on this trade.
I really feel like it's a toss-up. I'm going to lean the CEH side simply because of the Week 16 game. Play the Falcons, and the Seahawks play the Rams. And we saw what the Rams did to the Seattle offense a couple weeks ago. They completely shut him down. Granted, that was without Chris Carson. But his injury history bothers me, and it always seems like he's nicked up. And like you said, they're pretty much cruising for a playoff spot. So with the way that Carlos Hyde has looked, our guy Tyler Reynolds brings up a good point. Penny's being close to return. They could get him in there a little bit. DJ Dallas looked decent. He wasn't great by any means, but he looked decent enough for some carries. So with that being said, Le'Veon Bell, I think he's shown that he's nowhere near the Le'Veon Bell he was a few years ago. Anybody in this offense with, the guy I keep saying, just a guy, Damian Williams last year looked great in this offense. So I think Bell is going to be able to put some decent stats here and there, but I don't think he's a threat to CEH at all. And I want any piece of this offense I can get in Kansas City. So for me, I am going to go with you on the CEH, very slightly. I wouldn't say, it's a bad idea, but me personally, I would go with CEH.
I will say, Jay,
real
quick, Jay, I will say if this was like week 3, week 4, it's Chris Carson's side for me. But because I need people healthy right now. I can't wait for it. I got to get to the playoffs and then go from there. So if
and that's the thing too. They say that Chris Carson's kind of come back, but until you see him on the field, you just never know because you always have those guys that say, Joe Mixon, for example, oh, he's coming back. Oh, he's coming back. Oh, he's coming back. Oh, well, he's out 3 weeks and then he just got placed on the IR again. Yep. And like you said, at this point of the season, you can't wait on guys. So give me the guy who's healthy. And, those two depth pieces, Bernard, Mixon's out at least 3 weeks. So you got at least 3 weeks out of Geo, even though, this offense isn't going to be that great. Ryan Finley might dump the ball off to him. So he could be Duke Johnson is worthless. He cost Bill O'Brien his job among other things, but Duke Johnson's just worthless. He's going to get some touches, but he's not going to do anything special with them. We got another question from my guy Marty, friend of the show, Patrick or Fulgham PPR. Dan, we'll start with you on this one since we got your the love of your life, Mr. Fogeltron.
It's Fogeltron. Flogatron is the answer. You know why it's the answer? Because sometime around like the second quarter or so, after Seattle's beating us 56-0, they're going to bench Carson Wentz. And when they bench Carson Wentz, as soon as that happens, Jalen Hurts is going to come in and throw 3 touchdowns. Travis Fulgham. It's going to happen. Watch.
You're going with the Carson. You heard it here first, folks. The Eagles fan, Mr. Eagle Dan, is calling that Carson Wentz is going to get benched. You look really happy about that, too. Is that what you want to happen at this point?
I want Carson to be benched. I want Doug to be fired. I want the defensive coordinator to be fired. I don't even think we have an offensive coordinator. He must be napping half the time. They can all go.
All right, this is
get them off the field. Get him.
Marty knew what he was doing, setting you up, talking about the Eagles, and you were going to go off on a rant. Marty's watched every show with us. It's my guy. So, but I agree, and it's not because I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be benched, but they are playing that awful Seattle secondary that is somebody that you're targeting, that you want your offense to play in fantasy. And although I do think Jalen Reagor is going to be the number one wide receiver on this team before the end of the year, give me anybody who's playing the Seahawks. So easily for me.
Yep. Hey, Jay, real quick, did you want to circle back and get Eric's thankful, not thankful for?
Yes, absolutely. It's a good one. So we got both of our thankful and not thankful while we were dealing with your technical difficulties. So, Eric, let's go with you on your player that you are thankful for.
Yeah, I can bang through them pretty quickly. So I'm thankful this year for Justin Herbert. He was one of my late round darts or my early waiver claims throughout the season. And he's really outperformed even my expectations, right? I like to sort of groom the back of my bench with some lottery tickets, and he's one of the ones that hit, right? So having that investment in him in my fantasy lineup has also found me watching more Chargers games. And I think the kid's the real deal. He can weave it into those tight windows. He throws with anticipation. He's got a nice touch whenever he's got to put a little arc on it. So I've just really enjoyed watching him develop very quickly, probably faster than I would have anticipated in this league. On the other side, I'm one of those fools that bought in on the Hollywood Brown sophomore breakout. I mean, it hurts me to say, right? All the indications heading into the second year was that he was primed to take a step forward, and sure enough, where Lamar Jackson regresses to the mean is with his deep ball game, and that really just hamstrings our dude Hollywood. So he's back to Marquise for me. We'll evaluate week over week when he can pick up Hollywood back again.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's some of it. A lot of people are putting on Lamar, which I'm invested heavily in Lamar, so I watch a lot of Ravens games. And yes, he has missed wide open B-movie Brown many times, but he's also dropped some passes. He's also screwed up on some routes, so it's not all on Lamar. Definitely, B-movie Brown has not looked the best this year. Everybody was blaming last year on his injury, but he didn't make that leap like everybody was thinking. So yeah, I'm completely with you on that one.
Yeah, I remember
we did have another question from. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that in the offseason, the story from Willie Snead, his quote. Did you hear his quote that Lamar Jackson and Brown were sort of like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice? That's a little bit overplayed for sure.
Wow. Well, if you're taking your quotes from Willie Snead, that tells me everything I need to know about you. So, is Willie Snead probably the most valuable wide receiver on this team? Not including Mark Andrews, but I mean, Willie Snead's been putting up some decent numbers.
Yeah,
I feel like he's been around for like
over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's one of those guys. I feel like he's from my childhood, but I don't know how old he is at this point. Well, he was on the Saints, and then he was on the Dolphins, right? Didn't he go to the Dolphins?
No, yeah, I think he went. Did he go to the Dolphins? He was on the Dolphins for a year. I think you're thinking of Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills went to the Dolphins for a little bit.
Maybe that's who I'm thinking of. I'm not sure, but yeah, he had 23 points 2 weeks ago. He had 15 points 4 weeks ago, over 100 yards. That just blows my mind. Willie Snead of all people. But we got another question from Tyler Reynolds. Can you give me dynasty running back rankings for these rookies? Swift, Taylor, Gibson, CEH, and Robinson. Asking the tough questions. Geoff, we'll start with you on this one. How would you rank those 5 guys?
All right. So I think I'm still putting CEH long term obviously they got Mahomes locked up for, forever for $500 million. So that offense is going to be good for a long time. So give me CEH at the top. And then it gets tough because Taylor has not looked really good. That offensive line should have made him a lot better than that. But I still lean Taylor at number 2. It's really close with him and James Robinson. But I'll put James Robinson at 3, Swift at 4, and Gibson at 5. But those last Gibson and Swift can be interchanged. I think Swift has shown what he can do, but it's the Lions. I don't trust the Lions organization as a team. I just don't know. I think Swift's going to be a great player, but it is the Lions. And Gibson, he plays for a bad team too. He plays for the Washington football team, but I think they want to make him the center point of that offense. And I do think Gibson's got a slight edge over Swift.
Eric, what you think? How would you rank those guys?
Yeah, I got a similar take. I'll start with CEH. Just given that offense and that opportunity that's gonna be in front of him. For me, I'll go Robinson next. He's really established himself within that offense, and granted, there's likely to be some turnover within that staff, but for as long as I can remember, Jacksonville has centered their offense around running the ball, so I would imagine that would maintain. It gets really murky after that. I'll go Swift, Taylor, and then Gibson to round it out. A lot of that has to do with the organizational considerations, specifically around Taylor. I think he's probably the better athlete and better overall running back. But with Frank Reich, even dating back to his Eagles days, he loves distributing that ball around out of his backfield, working in the hot hand, and that sort of inconsistency is just hard for me to invest in long term.
Dan, how would you go with him?
I'm going to go with CEH. I think that he's in the best offense and he has the biggest opportunity there. I don't think Bell stays there forever. And I think once, CH gets his pro legs, then he'll be the center point of running in that offense. Then I'm going to go with Swift. I think that Swift is probably the more one of or the most talented out of the 5. I think that I know it's Detroit, but sooner or later they're going to have to realize that Swift is the real deal. And if they don't, then they're probably going to get fired, and then someone else is going to come in and realize that Swift is the real deal.
We hope. It's the Lions, though.
We hope, yes.
True.
Then I'm going to go with Gibson. I think that it's close between Gibson and Taylor. I think that Eric had a good point. Reich is not going to give Taylor the carries necessary for him to be like the bell cow. And it seems that Gibson is trending towards that way. I know that a couple, receptions are being taken away by McKissick, but I don't think that lasts going forward. And then Robinson, I think that, it's the Jags. The Jags don't really have any clue what they're doing. They're going to be in a market for a quarterback again this coming year. And, he's been good, but he's an undrafted free agent, and the people in Jacksonville might decide that they might like someone better coming out from college that might give them better talent, and they might go into a timeshare or something. I just don't trust the Jags to make the right decision on any player ever. So that'd be the way I rank them.
Yeah, and Robinson's one of those guys. Dan and I, we fully admitted we completely whiffed on him. We first couple of weeks, you're like, undrafted guy on this offense. I want no part of him. I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna put Swift at number 1. I believe in the talent. I think Patricia, even if he's not there, it seems like they finally realized that this is the guy. It took him forever. I believe he's the best running back in this class. It's been up for debate. This offense, it can be good. Matthew Stafford, you got Kenny Golladay, you've got TJ Hawkinson. You put DeAndre Swift back there who can catch the ball. I think that he's going to have more opportunity to really take over. an offense versus I love CEH and he's who I have second, but they've got so many weapons. It's going to be really hard for him to be consistent. He's going to put up, solid games, but it's going to be hard for him to have those blow up games when you've got a guy like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce that are obviously the 1A options in this offense. So that's the only reason I would put Swift over CEH very slightly, simply for that reason. And then I would go Jonathan Taylor. I still believe in the talent as well. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And hopefully Noodle Arm Phillip Rivers retires and they can get somebody that can actually get this offense going. I think that Jonathan Taylor's still going to be one of the better guys in this out of this class as well. And then I'm going to go Gibson. He was another one that, I was a little concerned with his whole college workload that he only got was a 30-something carries. But he's proven that he's electric. It's the only thing that worries me is like Geoff said, it's the Washington football team. And anybody, they're another one of those franchises like the Giants lately that you really can't trust anything that they're going to do. They signed the pod that I was on last night, 14 personnel. They made a good point. J.D. McKissick is there another year. So that worries me that he's going to play that passing down role and he's taking all those targets away. So what everybody thought the role was going to be for Gibson, that might not be the case because McKissick's still going to be around next year. And then I'm going to put Robinson last simply. Maybe I'm stubborn. I don't know. I still don't necessarily believe long-term. I think if you got him this year, you are ecstatic. He is a running back one. He is the lottery ticket that can win championships. But with the turnover, like Eric was saying, that's most likely going to happen with this team, whether it's in the front office, they have a new quarterback. They're going to another guy who I love, Laviska Shenault's going to get more involved. I think that this has been the perfect recipe for the way that the season's gone to have a guy that they can just hand the ball and they can pound it, with, was it Luton or whatever his name is? Yeah. I would be surprised if they go back to Minshew. I just don't necessarily believe in Robinson for the long run.
Question.
Answer.
As vice president of the Laviska Shenault fan club, the fact that you didn't pick him as the guy you were thankful for, doesn't that mean you should be removed from the fan club as vice president? I feel like it should.
Brings up a good point.
All right, Dan, that was nice. I appreciate you coming on with us tonight. You know what, Dan? You really grind my gears sometimes, but that's all right. We will continue to move on. Of course, he hasn't really done a whole lot this year. He's had injury issues, and going from Gardner Minshew to Jake Luton, it's tough. But I think he's another guy Dynasty Leagues keep an eye on. But our guys at Viridian Global, they're making a Visca shirt. Keep an eye out for that. That thing's going to be fantastic. I might buy two just to have two.
Yeah, I was looking, Jay, too, because I'm a Shenault owner, and I looked at that offense, and every receiver not named Shark or Shenault are all free agents next year for the Jags. So Connolly, Westbrook.
Ooh, that's good to know.
All of them. I forget the other one. Keelan Cole, all are free agents after this year. So I think he can be the number 2 receiver there next year.
Give me Trevor Lawrence and Fields and you put them on the same team as those guys.
Yep.
That'll be, you know what? And what I don't understand, we can get on a little bit of a Visca kick. That the beginning of the season they started to expand his role, and he was looking good, and then they just stopped. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. But we got some more questions in the chat. My guy Marty has a really good one. He says, I'm in a dynasty that didn't play this year, so when we draft next year, it will have this year's draft class and next year's draft class. Which draft class would you be looking to pick from first? It's pretty easy for me. Granted, I don't follow a whole lot of college. I do my research in the off season. So I don't know a ton about this upcoming class, but from the production standpoint, what you've seen this year, the hype even preseason, they lived up to it. The rookie wide receivers you've seen, the 5 guys that we just talked about, running backs, didn't even include, J.K. Dobbins or Cam Akers, who another guy that I still believe in. I'd be looking to dip in the 2020 class first myself. Geoff, what you think?
Yeah, it's tough because I'm the same as you. I don't watch much college. I do all my film study after the season's over with, and I do a pretty deep, in-depth dive into some of these guys, but I just have not done that yet. With that said, last year I dove into some running backs that were supposed to be in this class that didn't, went back to college, and Travis Etienne was one of those guys. Depending on where he lands, Travis Etienne would be the 101 for me. If he lands in a good situation, I think that if we're combining two classes, and let's say Etienne goes to, let's say that he goes to my 49ers, and Mostert becomes the second fiddle there, Etienne would fit perfectly in that Shanahan offense, and immediately I think would rival CEH as far as 101 goes. But if we're taking the whole class, if you're going to say this class versus this class, the whole class, I think you take this year's class. If you're looking at a few players, Travis Etienne being one of them, if you have a top spot, top 1, 2, or 3, maybe you're taking this year's or this coming up class because of Etienne and a few other guys that are going to be there.
All right, Eric, what you think?
Yeah, so I'm in the exact same boat. I really double click on college and prospects as we sort of round out the regular season. But it's a pretty clear answer, and it's part of the reason why, especially in redraft, I'll usually fade investing early on rookies, and it's because we have less information, right? We have fewer data points about who this player is going to develop into, what role they're going to take into the offense. And so if we're talking, class versus class, I'll absolutely go with the known quantities of this year's class as opposed to having to do a bit more guesstimating on exactly how the rookies for next year will fit into the NFL level.
That's a really good point.
Very good point there.
And I know you do watch some college football. What'd you say, Geoff?
I said it's a very good point there with you kind of have their makers at 105, and I'm like, did I pick the wrong guy? So very good point there, Eric.
I did the same thing. I had a team that I co-own with my guy Marty. We took we did get Swift, but then we took Cam Akers too, and not too happy with that. But it's a rebuilding team. We're doing pretty well. So Dan, I do know you do follow some college football, so this is probably a good question for you. What class would you go after first?
Barring, the results that we've seen from this year's class, I think they've all done a pretty good job. I think it's pretty clearly the 2021 class. I think if you go in position by position, Trevor Lawrence is the clear-cut QB1 in both classes, even above Burrow. Running back, you have Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard, Master Teague, Kennedy Brooks, Kylan Hill, top 5. Those guys, you can intermingle them with this year's, but outside of CEH and maybe James Robinson, which no one really had high. What has any running back really killed it rookie wise this year? Not really. And then wide receiver, it's not even close. I mean, Jamar Chase is going to be a monster when he comes in next year. You have Jalen Waddle from Alabama, Rondale Moore from Purdue, Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. I mean, there's a couple slot guys in there, but leading in, depending on where they go, they'll be huge PPR guys right off the bat with their route running and everything. So I think, you can make an argument with maybe some wide receiver. Tight end is like a wash because there's no tight ends worth a damn on either class.
Tight end.
Yeah, but I think if you're going position by position, I think that 2020 might have more depth wise, but on the top, it's definitely the 2021 class.
Well, there you go. It's coming from a guy who watches a lot more college football than I do. So I would definitely, although I like the point that Eric brought up too. Rookies, we don't know. It's the unknown. So take it for what you will. We do have another question from. We actually have two from Matt Dull from Facebook. This is probably a good question for Mr. DFS. Geoff, is Houston, Dallas the teams to stack for Thanksgiving?
I like that name, actually. That's my new Twitter handle, DFS Geoff. Let's just go with that. Perfect. Houston and Dallas. So Matt also checked out my show. In case y'all missed my tweet earlier, our DFS show will be tomorrow night, not Friday. So Matt, make sure you tune in tomorrow night at 10:30. We'll go over the Thanksgiving slate plus the main slate. But are they the teams to stack? I would say probably yes, because not only are they good offenses, I think Dallas is going to be a good offense with them being there, at least good enough. They're fairly cheap. They have a depressed value because they haven't been very good all year. I think Houston's finally hitting their stride. I think Dallas with Dalton is a much better team. We saw last week that CeeDee Lamb is actually going to be viable once again. His price was depressed because he's been struggling for so long, so you can get him at a good value. I think the NFL fan in me to say that the York Steelers Ravens because they're such a good team, but they're so expensive. They're going to be hard to afford. Plus, it's Thanksgiving. You got a lot of people that play DFS that don't play really, hardcore. They're all playing on Thanksgiving, so they're all going to be on the Steelers in the Ravens game. That's the big marquee game. So if you want to be different, you stack the early games that are kind of be the less marquee games, and then you can get that little bit of an edge over some of the rookies, so to speak, that are playing the Thanksgiving slate just because it's Thanksgiving.
There you go. Those are little tips that you get. That's how you earn that name, DFS Geoff. And he was asking, also another question. Matt from Facebook asked, speaking of this year's class, does Trevor pull an Eli Manning? And Dan, I'm not sure if you knew Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowl MVPs. I just wanted to throw that out there for you. Does Trevor pull an Eli Manning and force the team's hand where he goes? I don't think so. I heard that, there was a rumor flying around that he said he doesn't want to play for the Jets. I don't think that happens personally. What do you guys think?
I'm in the same boat with you, Jay. I don't see that happening. Eli Manning, he's, him and John Elway were kind of a unique case. Trevor Lawrence is a great talent. I don't think Gase is going to be there next year. I think that at the end of this year they'll cut ties with Adam Gase.
You would hope not, unless this was a master plan to tank and look completely incompetent. But he does that.
How crazy would that be? That's the Jets. That was the Jets plan all along. Let's get Gase so we can lose every single game. We'll get Trevor. You know what I mean? Like, that would be brilliant. But I think Trevor Lawrence will go to New York. It is the New York Jets, but at the same time, it's still New York City. It's still, it's still the big city you want to go to. It's not like he's going to some small little city that no one wants to play for. It's in New York. He'll be a big name. Hopefully Gase is gone. He can be the one to sort of bring back the prestige of the Jets from from way back in the 70s. When I used to watch football. It's a little old. But yeah, I do think that he'll be a Jet next year for sure.
Yeah, and as much as I hate to say it as a Giants fan, they have an opportunity as long as the Giants have been bad. That the one thing that New Yorkers love is a team that wins, and if they get Lawrence and they start winning, they could become the big brother. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's definitely in the realm of possibility. But what do you think, Eric? Do you think Lawrence will pull Eli?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say, right? Anything's possible, but in general, the teams that are drafting high are in dire straits, right? They're not the best run organizations. They've got the most holes in their roster. So even if you were to consider it, where does that really land him as an alternative, right? I think he's. Yeah, I think he's gonna buy in a lot, like we saw with Joe Burrow coming into Cincinnati, try to make the best of the situation and play ball in 21.
Dan, what you think?
Does Joe Burrow have a dad that he can go cry to in order not to go to the Jets? Oh no, he doesn't. Okay, so then he'll go to the Jets. He's not
talking about Joe Burrow. Get the name right if you want to make a joke, Dan.
He's not Eli.
Go ahead. You're right. He's not a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
By the way, what else did he do in his career besides that? Oh, nothing. That's right.
Courtney makes a good point. Lawrence doesn't have the power like the Manning name. I think he's 100% right. And Marty's taking a shot at me too. Everybody's coming at me.
Peyton Manning. That's the name.
Yeah. Marty said, please, Jay, listen to Geoff's show. I feel bad taking your money the last 2 weeks. We've done head-to-head DraftKings contest, and Marty did unfortunately take my money, but I'm getting revenge again this week on you, Marty. We'll do some Thanksgiving head-to-head as well. So,
Marty, make sure you join
with that.
Join the DFS contest. Going for 2.com/fight. If you're not already in there, get in there so we can see how good you actually are.
There you go. You can tell Geoff's a vet at this. Knowing the right time to plug stuff. We'll roll on. We're going to go to just anything that you're thankful for in the fantasy football community. Just wanted to leave this one wide open with the Thanksgiving theme. Pretty much whatever you want. So, Dan, we're going to start with you on this one. What are you thankful for in the fantasy football world?
Okay, so back in September, we had this good idea to start these random shows to look over, go during the week and preview what's going on in football. And we decided, me and you, Jay, partnered up, and we were starting out. We've never done a podcast before, and I'm just really thankful for literally all the guests that we've had. this past year. We've had some really nice guys. We have some debuts. We have some serious guys. NFL. So Florio, Troy.
Yeah, Michael Florio from the NFL Network. We've had Chris Meany from the Adam Ronis. And not little people, but people who are on the smaller side too. Troy and Mike and Cooter Doodle, who was on with us last week, and the guys from Dynasty Junkies.
Yeah, so for them to give us, that are startups that don't really have much of a name, and this is their first time, I just really appreciate them giving us a shot and coming on the show, and we had a great time with all of them. So,
yeah, I could not agree more. I think that's perfect. I wish I would have thought of that. Every once in a while, you have a good idea, Dan.
Well,
and the thing too is, they, not a single one of them that ever felt like they were big time. Act like they were big time. It was just like having a conversation with a friend. Every single one of them, even if it was, Michael Florio or Adam Ronis or Meany, who have, thousands of followers, or, just Mike and Troy and Cooter Doodle and the Junkies who are, just in the same realm as us. I completely agree with you there. So, Geoff, I will roll with you next.
Ray. I forgot Ray. I'm sorry. Please don't poison my food when I go visit your house.
That's your boy, our first guest, and you didn't even shout him out.
I'm gonna get Cole for Christmas now.
Geoff, we'll roll with you. What are you thankful for in the fantasy football world?
I think it's the community. So I've been doing this for 5 years now, and some of the people that I met, doing this, be the podcast, the webs, people that have written for me, people that have come on as guests. I legit have friends, people I call friends that I've never met in real life. The two of you, for example, I've known y'all now for a couple of years. It seems like y'all are just guys that I've known for my whole life, even though I've never actually even met you. It's very important. I mean, I know it's like a separate life. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She calls me a nerd. Whatever.
Mine too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's it's a fancy community, and it's our little community. I think we have some infighting every once in a while, but for the most part, everyone's there to help everybody out. We all try to retweet each other's stuff. We read each other's content. We make guest appearances on other shows. My other co-host for my DFS show, Gerson, actually had a very big win in DFS, won $50,000 in baseball, and flew out to Washington, D.C. to kind of hang out with him for a weekend. We went to a Redskins game, or Washington football game, but it was the Redskins at that time, so I can still say it. Those kind of things are just cool to me, just to know that community is kind of always going to be there. Seeing the same people, grinding day in and day out at this business, and it's just something you can't really put a price on. I think it's just a great community to be part of.
Yeah, that's another great one. Funny you bring that up. Marty, who's in the chat, he's watched every single show with us. I talk to him literally every single day. He lives in, I believe, Nova Scotia, Canada, and I live in North Carolina. So we live nowhere near each other. And he's literally, I consider him one of my best friends. Dan, since we've started doing the show, we talk every day. Geoff, you and I talk heck, Eric, here lately, you and I have been talking every day too. So I think it's crazy how you can have these relationships with these people who you've never met. And to be honest with you, a good amount of us will never meet in person. We're on the same East Coast, so it's possible for all of us to get together eventually. But Marty, I want to, but it's going to be hard. He lives in Canada. Eric, where are you located at again? I know you're in a different time zone.
I'm in Texas. I'm in San Antonio.
Nice.
Okay, so that's still possible. So, we were talking about once coronavirus is over, everybody was talking about getting an East Coast meetup around, I think, Virginia Beach or something like that. So that would be awesome. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. And Eric, we'll roll on with you. What are you thankful for in the fantasy football world?
Yeah, I'm going to give the same answer with the community, but from a slightly different angle. This is our first year with Pros with Joes, and literally up to maybe about 5 weeks before kickoff, it was just a twinkle in our eye. It literally was nothing more than an idea, and we simply put it out there to the Twitterverse, had a few people respond, and all of a sudden we're 56 fantasy experts deep. We're raising $8,000 and more for charity. And really the thing that jumps out about the community is that it just took this snowball effect, right? Every time we found someone that said they would be interested, they were the first one to offer up 2 or 3 other people who might be interested or who'd be willing to sweeten the pot with a premium sub or some swag or whatever. People that couldn't play but made 4 or 5 introductions. There was a point where when we were getting started, we thought we'd be lucky to scrape together maybe 10 or 12 people that would participate. And before long, we're having conversations. Do we start a second, a third, a fourth league? So the community at large, just how much they're willing to help each other out, right? To be supportive of upcoming shows, of new ideas, and of these charitable causes. I'm just completely floored and humbled by it.
Yeah, you guys came out of nowhere. I remember seeing it. It was like, oh, what's this? And then boom, you see some of the biggest names. I was trying to rattle off the names. I couldn't remember them all. Who were some of the biggest names that are in the tournament?
Yeah, so there's this guy named Jay Felicio, probably top dog on the list.
That guy, he really knows his stuff.
Yeah,
I am never going to hear the end of this now. You realize that, right? Never.
I like it.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good mix, right? So we've got some of the big names. Rank, we got Stefan, Dave Richer with CBS, James Coe, right? Some of really the biggest names in the industry, all the way down to people with a couple hundred followers trying to weave a little path for themselves. So we've got a pretty good mixed bag, and with that, like you mentioned with some of your show guests. Everyone are just normal ass people, right? They pair off with their everyday player. They go in on lineup decisions and on waiver decisions with them. They're making themselves available, right? Nobody is too busy or too big for the cause. So it's been amazing to watch it come together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's been really cool to see that grow. And you guys are going to do it next year again too, right? And you said you're looking to add even more people.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what the backstop is, what the magic number that we shoot for next year. But we've definitely got expansion on the horizon. We're giving away a Joe spot in our actually with our in-season fundraiser this year. So anyone that goes and donates, it's proswithjoes.rallyup.com/trophy. In addition to all the cool swag we're giving away, one-on-one coaching, everything like that. We're giving away a spot in next year's league, in next year's charity league, the second inaugural version. And we had a number of experts that we had to put on ice and say no to kind of coming into this year. So definitely looking to expand the list and really just expand the impact that we can do for all these charities that everyone's supporting.
Good stuff.
That's awesome. And Courtney brings up a really good one too before I go into mine. Courtney says, I'm thankful for all the fantasy and podcast community sticking together, even though it's competition, we all come together. And I could not agree more. We're in groups with people who are literally on the exact same time that we're on. Different, not competition, but not a single time do you see somebody say, oh, I'm not going to promote you because I'm on the same time, or, everybody lifts everybody up. And that's one of my favorite things about this community. Everybody's so supportive of each other. And Marty, I don't know if you guys saw me throw that up there, said, I'm thankful for you guys' fantasy info, whether it's right or wrong. So appreciate you sticking with us, Marty. We got good calls, we got bad calls, but I think that's everybody across the board. You guys hit some really good ones, and it was hard for me to kind of dig deep and to think of something else other than those, because those are the big things. But I'm going to go with the Scott Fish Bowl and Scott Fish himself. He's one of the Scott Fish Bowl is kind of how I got involved in this. I always wanted to write. Some people know the story, some don't. I wrote under a fake name 2 years ago for Geoff. Didn't work out too well because my wife wound up getting pregnant and I got busy and just ghosted Geoff and went nowhere. So I apologized to Geoff for that. I came back the next year and I said, I'd like to give this another try if you're willing. And he gave me another shot, and here we are. But part of the reason I wanted to give it another shot was because I saw that writers got a better chance of getting in the Scott Fish Bowl. So I figured, hey, if I can 2 birds with one stone, I wanted to do this anyways. Maybe I'll get a better chance of getting in. But the best part about the Scott Fish Bowl, if you've played in it, is that not even the league. It's the groups that you're in. It's the relationships you build. I've met so many people through that now I talk to every day. I feel like it's part of the reason that I wouldn't say a big by any means, but I went from a couple hundred followers to now getting closer to 3,000. It's such a part of the community, and it's not only that, but you've got other charity leagues that have grown from this. The Pros with Joes. You've got Scott Barrett, not Scott Barrett. Is Scott not Scott Barrett? What's his name? From the Fantasy Football Astronauts, our guy Scott. You know what I'm talking about? He's in the chat with us. I'm sorry?
Shane Barrett?
Shane, not Scott. Shane Barrett. Sorry, Shane. I love you, Shane. He does the Polly's playoff. Yeah, there you go. Another one. He's got the Polly's playoff for his family's been affected by Alzheimer's. You've got the guys over at Sleeper Wire that do their charity stuff. There's so many of these charities that, Geoff, you've done, 2 years now you did at the beginning of the first week at DFS that donated to Fantasy Cares. Yep.
But 2 years in a row now we've done the opening weekend game, DFS game. We brought it to the DFS side, and even this Thanksgiving one was sort of in the same mold, different charity, but the same kind of idea where we're not requiring you to free to join. Same with Scott Fishbowl. It's you get invited. Obviously, it's a little bit different. It's more prestigious, but it's kind of the same principle. Free to join, donate's optional. And yeah, it's Scott Fish that really kind of got me onto this to begin with. It's my third year in the Scott Fish Bowl, and that's kind of what got me thinking about it to begin with.
Yeah, it was kind of the originator and everything. All these great ideas have just snowballed from that, and it brings out the best in people. Lifting each other up, giving. Half the time, and I'm in eliminators and stuff that John Bosch does. Half the time, people don't even take the winnings; they just donate the winnings too. It's just the fun of the people that you meet. Getting in the draft chats and getting in the your league chats and stuff like that. Like, I'm a Duke fan. I'm playing with Shane Battier. Like, how awesome is that I'm in a league with Shane Battier? If I told my 13-year-old self that I was playing fantasy football with Shane Battier, flip out right now. So it's just all those things, and the hard work that him and Ryan do to put this all together. He's such a big part of this community. And he's such a nice guy too. I don't know how in the world he does what he does. So Scott Fish and the Scott Fish Bowl is definitely something I think we should all be thankful for in the fantasy football community.
Yeah, it's crazy too, just going on that, because I know we got people that listen on Facebook, but if you're not on Twitter and you don't know what the Scott Fish Bowl is, go there and find out. Like, type in hashtag SFBX, because it's weird how Twitter and Facebook are so much different. Like, I kind of built my first original stuff all on Facebook. I came over to Twitter a little bit later, and Facebook has no idea who Scott Fish is. Twitter is like he's like a god.
That's
you know what I mean?
That
works out. But if you're on Facebook and you're not on Twitter, so I suggest you get on Twitter. Find out what the Scott Fish Bowl is. I think they had like 11 or 12,000 entries this year, and of course they only allow in like 1,400. This year I think it was even a little bit more. But yeah, it's crazy how big.
They did some extra invites this year.
Yeah, so it's an awesome tournament. And like you said, I agree. I mean, again, going back to the community, it's all about like the draft and the pre-draft and finding out what division you're in, and all that stuff's really cool. Like the actual
waiting on that invite, it's like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, sitting there refreshing every day. Like, oh, did I check this hour? Did I check my spam folder? Like, do I have the invite?
Screenshots of like, I got invited to the Scott Fish Bowl.
Yep.
Like, it's so cool. It's a really great time. Like I said, the league itself is fun, but nowhere near as fun as the off season where you're doing the draft and getting your tickets and getting your league and your division and that kind of stuff. That's the best part of it all.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And then Matt from Facebook said, and Geoff with the socks.
That's because it's my sponsor. He always gives me a hard time. As I have mysocietysocks.com. I do a commercial that I actually was given a script, and you can tell that I'm reading the script on this commercial, and I hated it.
I love you, Geoff, but you can 100% tell that you're reading right off the script.
I literally have I have the script on my computer screen. I'm like reading it like this. Go to mysocietysocks.com, and it's so bad. I got to redo it. But yeah, it's Matt. Like I said, Matt comes on my DFS show all the time. He just makes fun about my socks.
Yeah, Matt, as he was asking what SFBX is, go to the Scott Fish Bowl. I think it's scottfishbowl.com. And explain a lot about it. And I was looking there earlier today at the leaderboard to see if I was in the playoffs. And I think they already have over 10,000 people signed up for next year's.
Yeah.
So insane. That's just, and it's getting harder and harder to get in.
Matt, SFBX, Scott Fishbowl 10, with the X stands for 10. So next year it'll be 11.
Yeah, let me see, SFBX. All right, so we will roll on to. We're gonna go ahead. We're running a little long on time, so we're gonna skip over the sleepers, and we're gonna go right into the call your shot. That unfortunately Dan is currently winning. For those of you who haven't watched the show before, Dan and I have a year-long competition that whoever has more correct is going to get to design the Twitter avatar for the other guy for the entirety of the NFL playoffs. Dan is up 3-1 currently. And the call your shot is a bold call. Nothing doesn't have to be too crazy. Just a guy you like more this current week, and give a bold call on him. So, Dan, since you are currently the leader, I will go with you first. What is your call for the week?
My call for the week is that Robert Tonyan is going to score at least 12 or more PPR points this week. I like his matchup. I think that last week he had a couple of good catches. So, I mean, it's the Bears. So it's a division game, Sunday Night Football. So I think with the lack of any kind of consistent wide receiver 2 on that team, that Tonyan's going to get the looks and targets necessary to put him over the hump and get you one step closer to having J-Jaw as your picture.
I know it's going to be J-Jaw. I said that from the get. It's still going to be. I still got a chance. Like I said, maybe in the fantasy playoffs, maybe you'll throw me a bone and we'll do like 2 each or something like that. But we'll see about that. And we always have our guests participate too. Eric, we'll go with you. What is your shot that you're calling for this week?
So, despite him burning me in the last 2 weeks, I'm sticking on the Puke Johnson bandwagon. I'm a big fan of chasing opportunity. So I've actually got him set as a top 15 PPR running back this week. It's really the merger of opportunity. The last 3 weeks, he's getting about 86% of the touches out of the backfield in Houston, and they are facing off against Detroit, who's the second most favorable matchup to running backs this week. So they're averaging about 5 yards per carry. What they're giving up, almost 125 yards a game, and on average about a touchdown and a half to running backs, plus 5 running back receptions per game. So we know that Duke can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's getting the workload, and that matchup is just a little too juicy for me to pass up. And then on top of that, dancing in Jeff's world a little bit, 5,700 on DraftKings, right? I think that he presents a really interesting value. Pretty good shot to go 3.5, 4x. And with those stinkers that he's coming off of, might push his ownership down a little bit. So once again, I'll be a little overweight on Duke Johnson. Maybe this third time I'll be singing a different song come Monday.
Well, I didn't even have to know what kind of stats you're pulling. You said Duke Johnson. That's a bold call right there in itself. So it didn't matter what it was. But Jeff, we'll roll on with you. What's your bold call for this week?
Yeah, that Duke Johnson call's a good one too, and it's a Thanksgiving thing to happen. You know what I mean? It's always the Thanksgiving heroes that know what's coming, and he seemed like the perfect candidate for that after 2 bad games, burning all of us DFS players, myself included.
As soon as you're out on him, he's going to blow up.
Yep, exactly. 100% agree. So my guy, I'm sticking with the running back theme that we got here, and I'm going to go with a guy that is hated on by my co-host. He's called this guy terrible and has the worst vision in the NFL and on and on, but he just continues to produce. Mr. Kalyn Bellage. I'm going to go Kalyn Bellage has over 100 total yards, so receiving and rushing, and also has 2 touchdowns. That's the big bold part there because he's done the 100 total yards. But it's the 2 touchdown part that he has not done. So I think he gets 2 TDs this week.
I love it. I love it.
I did see you perk up a little bit there, Dan.
Brian doesn't know anything about anything.
So I'm going to roll with I think your boy, Dan, is going to get back on track. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. I don't think he's going to get benched. I think he's going to get right this week against the Seattle defense. And I'm going to say that Carson Wentz is going to score over 30 fantasy points this week. 6-point passing touchdowns, just so we're clear. But I think he's going to get right. I think both Rager and Fogeltron, like you like to call him, I think they're going to have good games, as well as Dallas Goedert. I think that he's going to get on track. It's only a matter of time. I know it's hard to believe. I still believe in Carson Wentz. I do. I still think he's a good quarterback. I still think he's the quarterback of this team for the future. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But either it's a win-win because either he sucks and the Eagles lose, or I won the bet. So it's a win-win, really.
Hedge your bets right there. I like it.
Quick question. Do you just want to hand me this call your shot thing now? Because the kind of picks that you're making the last couple of weeks are completely awful. Like, I feel like you're just throwing this. I don't know. I'm not sure. Because there's no way that Carson Wentz is scoring 30 points. There's just no way.
He's taking for a better pick next year.
yeah. Matt was asking if Eckler coming back this week. I don't think he's coming back this week. I think, did they activate him today?
They activated him.
I was reading about him.
I thought today they activated him.
But they haven't said if he's playing Bellage window. But I do think if you look even back to week 1 and week 2 when Eckler was healthy, they had guys still touching the ball then as well. I think Bellage is still usable. He probably won't get 2 touchdowns and 100 yards total yards, but I do think he'll still be fantasy leagues as well.
All right. Well, we're just about done here. I appreciate you guys coming on, and we do have a few things left. First off, we always ask our guests to bring something interesting that the fantasy football community does not know about them. Eric, we're going to start with you first. So what's something that we don't all know about you?
So it's probably the worst kept secret for people who actually know me in real life, but Flavor Flav officiated my wedding rehearsal.
Nice.
So my wife and I got married in Vegas about 9 years ago. For anyone who hasn't gotten married in Vegas, usually the wedding chapels are kind of tucked on the backside of the properties. That's also where they sneak in all the VIPs. So he just happened to be cruising by our rehearsal. Stopped by, shared his congratulations and his love, and a few minutes later, he's walking us through our rehearsal as opposed to our officiant.
Wow.
That is fantastic. That is definitely the most random one that we've had so far. So that is awesome. Do you have some pictures at least?
Yeah, I've got some evidence. I can share.
Okay, you got to post that in our Goal for Two chat.
Nice.
So,
Hey, Jay,
Geoff,
can you rewind it back and let me go first because I can't follow that up. Oh, that's right.
Man, if I would have had a heads up, I definitely would have threw first, man, because I don't know how you're going to beat Flavor Flav.
All right, so this is not really the best kept secret because I do mention it occasionally on my podcast. But I grew up in Newport News, and during that time when I was in Hightstown, rival of our football team was Michael Vick, and I played high school basketball against Allen Iverson at the same time. So I actually had a guard Allen Iverson in high school, which was a nightmare. And then also got to see Michael Vick as a high school player, playing, basically destroying my team. So that was kind of cool. Those years, kind of looking back on that.
Oh, that's cool.
So
did you get stepped over like Tyronn Lue?
No, I didn't, but I did get my ankles broken quite good. Thank God they didn't have cell phones back then with video because it would be all over.
Hey, but if you're going to get your ankles broke, I think everybody can understand if it's Allen Iverson, so there's nothing wrong with that.
That's awesome.
Well, speaking of basketball, what Dan and I like to ask everybody who comes on, even though this is a football podcast, anybody who likes sports, this is a very hotly debated topic. Who is the greatest of all time when it comes to the NBA? Dan and I both agree that it is Michael Jordan. And so far, our guests have agreed. We have Jordan leading with 8 votes, and LeBron has 3. So, Geoff, we will go with you on this one first. Jordan or LeBron?
It has to be Jordan, because Jordan is the reason I even watched the NBA. Growing up, I was a football fan first. I was a 49ers fan. Jerry Rice was my hero. I wanted to be Jerry Rice. And then Jordan came along, and it was sort of like he was almost like before I even watched basketball, you'd hear about Michael Jordan this, Michael Jordan that, Michael Jordan this, and I was kind of like, I turned the TV on one day, and in this area we had I think it's WGN, which is like the Chicago channel that's kind of nationwide.
Yeah.
I turned it on.
For some reason, I've always got WGN here in North Carolina too.
Yeah,
even like in the early '90s, I always got WGN.
Yep.
I got Cubs games for some reason.
Yep, exactly. And I turned it on, and it happened to be a Bulls game. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down and I'm just gonna watch this Michael Jordan guy. Who is this guy? And he went ballistic in this game. I mean, it was like for someone that never even was playing. At this point, I didn't even play basketball. I was amazed. I was like, this guy is, he's awesome. And then, when his career kind of progressed and he got into the finals, NBA finals, even now these days, aren't the same as they were when it was Jordan. When it was Jordan in the finals, it was like Super Bowl for us. Like houses to have parties. We wanted to watch Jordan play in the finals. Now it's like finals are on. Let me get on my Twitter account and let me just text about it. You know what I mean? It was not quite the same thing. It was an event when Jordan was in the finals. And the fact that LeBron James kind of blew a couple of those finals doesn't really help. Jordan, when he got there, he didn't blow anything. He was giving his all 100%. Even when he was sort of down and out, he found a way to win. LeBron, a few of those finals kind of looked like he had given up. So that's why I put Jordan above LeBron for sure.
Well, there we go. I like on the show sheet that before you could even get the word Jordan out of your mouth, he added another to. I don't know where Dan went, but he went ahead and added another to the Jordan tally. And Eric, we'll go with you. All right, here we go. Dan's back. Who are you going with Jordan and LeBron?
Yeah, so another way to phrase this question is, are you above the age of 27? So I fall into that demo. So I'm almost obligated to go with Jordan. There's a lot of things that I respect about LeBron, his game, and actually as kind of a closet front office nerd, the sort of layers of complexity that he's brought to free agency and player mobility within the league is something that I think is their product and more interesting kind of in a season or a year-long perspective. But in terms of play on the court, like you can't really match Jordan's intensity, the fire that he played with. And it was something that sort of transcended the action on the court, right? You could see it if you were at the game watching it. You could tell that it was intense when you were watching at home. It had kind of a buzz to it, almost like the heavyweight title fights of old, right? It was almost like a Tyson fight anytime that there was a critical game with Jordan out there on the court. So, I hate to sort of, step on LeBron, but I don't think it's really a fair comparison for him. Jordan's a GOAT. He brings that intensity level.
Well, you guys are both welcome back on the show with those votes. I appreciate that. But I think you're right. I think a lot of it has to do with age and guys who didn't get to see Jordan playing. It's not saying that LeBron isn't one of the best ever. We always feel like we have to preface that because as soon as you say, oh, Jordan's a GOAT, everybody say, oh, why are you hating all over LeBron? No, it's not that. I still think he's one of the best ever, hands down. He just, like Dan and I have both said, he doesn't have that killer instinct that MJ did. He passed, he's the one thing I'll say about LeBron, he could play any position on the court. You couldn't say that about Michael Jordan, So there's definitely things that he has over him. Michael Jordan, as good as he was at basketball, he is the exact opposite as a front office guy. So
yep.
He's got that as well. But that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys coming on with us. We'll go around the room. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter and plug the charity event and anywhere that they can find your work as well. So Geoff, we'll start with you.
All right, as you can see right there on the screen, There you
go.
27. It's spelled Geoff. A little different spelling, obviously. You can find me at Going for Two. You can find me on my show Wednesday and Friday nights, at least until the end of the season. And obviously go to the charity link. It's goingfor2.com/fight. We're taking signups until lock, basically on Thanksgiving. So go there, sign up, donate, get us to 1,000. Like I said, we're at 885 now, I think, or maybe we just gone over 900. So we're almost to 1,000 now. So help us out. Going for 2.com/fight.
All right. Well, Eric, we'll pass the ball to you. Where can we find your stuff?
Yeah, so I did the same thing. I threw my handle in my name there. Don't worry about where to find me personally. I'm easy enough to find out there. But while we're still out there trying to raise some money, all time and attention should go to @CharityProsJoes. That's our Twitter handle for the charity league. We are still running our in-season sweepstakes. It goes through the 2nd of December. Again, tons of prizes. We got about 50 things that we're giving away. Guest appearances, one-on-one coaching, autograph material, merchandise, premium subs, and a spot in the 2021 league. Easiest way to do it, make a donation at our donor page. It's proswithjoes.rallyup.com/trophy. All of those proceeds will go to our eventual winner. and to the charity that they are supporting. So, still have some time to raise money and do some good there. And one last plug, I did tweet out that exact same donor page address as we were kicking off the show. Anyone who quote tweets that and @ a friend, I'll get you a free entry into our sweepstakes as we wrap this up through the end of the year. So again, head to Charity Pros Joe's on Twitter. Last thing I tweeted out, quote tweet it, tag one friend, tag 10 friends, tag 100 if you want to be a superhero. We'll get you entered into the sweepstakes that we're drawing here in about a week and a half.
Well, that's awesome. And also, too, you're doing with Pros with Joe's, but you've also recently joined the ranks at goingfor2.com. We put out an article last week. You can't forget that.
Where are my manners?
Hey, that's all right, man.
So deep into pitch mode.
Charity is the most important thing. No hand thing.
Yeah, so I've been welcomed into the good graces of Going for Two, working on a few different projects. Pushed out my first feature last week with a solid 3 for 3 or 3 and 3 on my prop bet article. So head to goingfor2.com if you want to see my slightly above average prop bets and a few other things we're working out throughout the year.
And he's got his head in the right place, but I will plug his Twitter handle as well. It's @FantasyNav. Did I get that right?
That's right. That's me.
Yep. So follow. Definitely the charity is very important, but appreciate you, Eric, and everything that you're doing too. So we want you to get some love as well. And speaking of love, the guy that's full of love on this show, Mr. Dan Turner, tell everybody where we can find your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter @EagleDanFF. I have a column on Going for Two every week, rookies you should have for the week. I also on Thursdays co-host this wonderful show with you, the actual Robin to my actual Batman.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Also,
so you can.
Real quick, while we're being thankful for Thanksgiving thing, I just want to give a quick shout out to Geoff for allowing us the opportunity to have the show in the first place. I know it took a lot to have a couple of random guys come in and give us our own show, so I just want to say we both appreciate it, Geoff, a lot.
No problem. Glad to have you.
Thanks for making me look bad, Dan. I really appreciate that.
Anytime, man.
I completely agree with everything he said. That's your job, but I cannot agree more. We're very thankful for you, Geoff, and all the hard work you do with the show and the podcast. You're one of the hardest working guys I know in the Twitter world and fantasy football world. So really appreciate it all.
Thank you.
You can
have you two on this.
Well, that's going to be a wrap for us, guys. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm glad to have you all on board, as well as Eric. All y'all are great. Glad to have you on board.
Yeah, and we've got some really big things here coming up for Going for Two in the next year. We're relaunching the site sometime at the beginning of next year, expanding to what are we adding? IDP, betting, Devi. We're adding writers. If you're interested in writing, hit up one of us. We're definitely looking for more people, especially in those categories. But other than that, that's going to be a wrap for us. We appreciate everybody hopping on. You can follow me on Twitter @GMenJ. I do a weekly article at Going for Two and Sleeper Wire. I am actually taking a break from my weekly articles this week for both sites, trying to concentrate on the family a little bit. I've got my birthday tomorrow. I turned 34 years old. So that, along with the holidays, I'm just take a step back, spend some time with the family. But we will be back. There's no show for us on Thursday. But make sure you tune into the show, Armchair Show, tomorrow night at 10:30 with Geoff. And we'll be back next Thursday at our normal time, 7 p.m. with Jim Coventry he's on Sirius XM. I believe he's with RotoWire. So we're going to start off with another guest next week on Thursday. So everybody, good luck, and hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.